We have apologies this evening from both Paul Walden, who is overseas, and Grant Crawford, who can't be here tonight. I'm your MC this evening. I'm Chris Walker. Before we get underway, I just want to acknowledge a couple of other people as well. We have the current and outgoing local board chair, Kath Hanley. Welcome to her. Waitemata Gulf Islands Council candidate, Selena Renner, is here. As is mayoral candidate Karen Leone. And in addition to tonight's debate, Waiheke Radio has recorded statements and interviews with each of the 11 candidates. So those are all available at waihekeradio.org.nz. There is an interview with Karen there as well. Tomorrow morning we'll be interviewing Selena. And we have more of the council candidates being interviewed in the coming week. We've asked Wayne Brown, but we've had no response so far. All right, let's get into it. So we posed the candidates all an opening question, and they've kind of got a minute and a half to address this. And we'll just kind of take it in seating order, and then we'll mix it up as we move through the questions. So the first question we asked candidates to address was, what is your top priority issue for the new board to address, and what will you be advocating the board does on that issue? Over to you, Josie.
Kia ora koutou te whānau Waiheke, ko Josie Hivreina, tōku ingoa. I'm here to listen, I'm here to advocate and to work alongside our community. It's hard to narrow it down to one issue, but throughout this campaign I've been clear about tourism being the hero rather than the villain. That means tourism can give back, support our small businesses and provide steady year-round benefits. One of the most important tools that I see is the Destination Management Plan, developed with Tataki Unlimited, the local board, Mana Whenua, and our community. It's about to go out for consultation, and it's ours to shape. So let's use it to reset tourism around sustainability, supporting initiatives like the Electric Island's push for fossil fuel-free transport, businesses like eRide and Dark Skies Waiheke, connecting visitors to our environment and our culture. The plan also proposes a visitor levy to fund infrastructure, iwi-led experiences, and better data, so decisions are based on evidence, not assumptions. But we need to recognise the data is probably a bit out of date now. The community we know is divided, and infrastructure is under strain. The board's role is to build consensus, make sure the plan delivers for locals as well as for the visitors. So I've spent more than 2 decades in large organisations like the University of Auckland, where I learned to bring diverse people together, balance commercial realities, and turn ideas into action. Together we can protect what we love.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Norm Robbins. I'm going to say everyone's name over and over again because people on the radio can't see them like you can here. Norm Robbins.
Kia ora koutou. A lot of options to choose from. My option would be to review the 10-year transport plan. If you're not familiar with that, there's a whole list of projects, amongst other things, in the 10-year transport plan. The projects are prioritised, but I think it's time that those priorities were reviewed. We have a lot more e-bikes on the island, for one thing. And I know a couple of people have suggested new projects that aren't in that list already to me. I'd also like to see some costs put around some of those projects. Without knowing the cost rough order, then it's hard to weigh up the benefits versus the costs of each of those projects. Something else that's going to be happening if the current bill becomes law next March is that Auckland Transport will be wound down, and Auckland Council will have more responsibilities, and those will devolve to local boards in terms of looking after the roads in the local board area. That should mean we have a bit more flexibility with standards rather than being tied to the Auckland Transport standards as rigidly as we are at the moment. In terms of how I would see that process working, I think there would be a number of workshops, and obviously the public are welcome to come into workshops. And then there would be some form of public consultation as well when the plan's reviewed, so everybody can have a say on whether those priorities are right. Kia ora.
Nice timing, no? Damien Sycamore.
Kia ora. My number one priority is rebalancing Waiheke's housing market in favour of those of us who call Waiheke home. Fundamentally, it is imbalanced currently. We have the worst rent-to-income ratio in the country, worse than Queenstown. Per capita, we have 4 times the national average for a social housing waitlist. And between 2018 and 2023, we lost almost 20% of our young family demographic. And a huge contributor, this is very low, a huge contributor to that pressure on our housing system is the fact that we're extremely desirable to live, but we're also a wonderful place to visit. It means we have a hell of a lot of short-term rentals. How many? Nobody knows. My priority is implementing a short-term rental register because in order to have a grown-up conversation about pressures on our housing market, you must first know how many there are to know what you're talking about. The first step is that short-term rental register, and this is not a new topic of conversation. Queenstown already has one. Kaikoura, Christchurch, Rotorua, they all require a resource consent for you to rent out your property short-term. Most tourism economies on the planet have a short-term rental register. This, a short-term rental register, and the implementation of such will give us the data we need to make good policies that balance our visitor economy with the needs of our community. Kia ora.
Thank you. Oliver Kerr.
Yes, good evening. Thanks all for coming. I've been told that Tamaki Makoro had a very short turnout in terms of the local election, 24%, I think. So thanks a lot for being here. I don't have any plan. I'm not going to give you words. I'm a practical person. Most of you will know me from making coffees at Kennedy Point for the last 10 years. I'm going to tell you my 3 priorities. I'm into doing things, not talking. And you're going to hear a lot of people talking about lots of things that unfortunately won't change. I would like a safe house to be built. Maybe we can work out with the marae for our youth, for people that are hurt, violence. That would be something that the local board can do tomorrow. Second of all, I live in Onetangi. We have an amazing toilet at 7th Avenue. We've got another one in the middle. And then there is nothing by First Ave. A lot of people use the toilet, children and everything, prams. Where do they go? They go to restaurants. That's a pain in the bottom. So that's my priority. That's number 2. And number 3, obviously, tourism is very important, and I think the local board can do it. I've been told by Kim, who is a manager at Programmed, that it would not cost a fortune to have a walkway all the way all along the wineries, all the way from maybe Heki to Wild on Waiheke. You see people in the summer walking on it. 3 priorities. I would love the other members, the local board members, to share these ideas with me, and we can make it happen by the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Bianca Ranson.
Kia ora, everybody. Thank you for having us this evening, to the Waiheke Radio organisers. I think my top priority has always been, since I first campaigned to come onto local borders, definitely around Te Taio, around our environment, and I think that a healthy and thriving environment really underpins the well-being of our community and the well-being of our economy as well. Whether that's our local economy or that of our tourism industry, I've been very fortunate to be the Waiheke Local Board representative on the Hauraki Gulf Forum, and one of the large pieces of work that's been going on for the last decade has been the Hauraki Gulf Marine Protection Bill. We were told by Minister Pōtaka that it's going to be set into law this week. However, I did get an update from some of the Labour MPs that could be bumped back to October. So I think that it's absolutely critical that we maintain a really strong voice on the local board for the well-being of our marine environment, to ban bottom trawling out of the Hauraki Gulf. 92% of 8,900 submitters want to complete ends of bottom trawling, but we also need to keep the pressure on that we see this Hauraki Gulf Marine Protection Bill set into law as well. There's also the unitary plan discussion and reform that's coming up next term, and we need to have people on the board that know the importance of maintaining our unique voice as Waiheke residents so that we can make sure that the Hauraki Gulf Islands District Plan is held within the unitary plan, or something that maintains our unique perspective and understanding of our environment is not lost to Auckland Council and Central City interests. Thank you.
And Zan Hamilton.
Kia ora koutou, ko Zan toko ingoa. I've lived on Waiheke for 8 years. I am on the Artworks board. I'm on the City of Auckland City Music Board, and I'm a member of a few community groups on the island. I think the most pressing issue for me, I mean, there's so many actually on the island, but the one I'm going to talk about right now is our aged population. With 25% of our population aged 65 or over, we have a lot of issues that will bubble up really quickly if they're not already happening. People need to be able to age in place on the island, and currently they need to go into Auckland, which rips them apart from whānau, from friends, from places that they know and love, which also equals physical and mental and emotional decline. I think we need to focus on, hopefully, we'll focus somehow on residential care so people can age in place on island, and whether that means advocating somehow, I don't know, I'm not on the local board yet, but for a facility where people can do that, or for people to stay in their house, etc. Also, transportation goes under that, aging in place, and aged care. Having a transport network that can bring people around to where they need to go. And that means being able to get on buses that bring them to places that they need to get to, as well as in the summer when buses are packed with tourists, be able to access those buses as well. There are so many things that obviously we can talk about when we talk about the aged population on Waiheke, but I think that's what needs to be addressed most. Yeah.
Carly Matthews. Yeah, feel free to move that forward if you like, so you've got some more room.
Tēnā koutou, everybody. I'd just like to acknowledge Kath and just thank you so much for all of your guidance and direction and the huge amount of work that you've done over the last two terms that I've been with you on the board. Just like to acknowledge that. The reality of the situation is with local board is that we're going to be covering a lot of various different things, and it's great that everybody has a focus, but I'm talking about how we all work together as one in this to get the best outcome for our community. So I agree with Zan about the healthcare of our elderly and the integrated health hub possibility that we may have on the island, and also how we look at our property portfolio review and how we can maximise our local board and the decision-making abilities that we will be having, plus the inequalities that we face in our transport, housing and health. Kia ora.
Rangi Hillman.
Kia ora te whānei, nā mihi o te whānau Ngāti Pāua, mana whenua ki te moana nui a Kiwa, this part of that spot, Waiheke Island, and nā mihi to you fellas for having us all up here. Tāhua, beautiful kōrero already had here. Myself personally, I am a third generation Waihekean. My whakapapa goes all the way back though to a big fella who got his nose bleeding on Rangitoto. His name was Tamate Kapo. He got a tap in the nose up here and he ended up taking off after a few things transpired, down to Makatu and then down to this spot here, to Whānau. My grandfather shared two of the names that I have. His name was Eric Hillman. My name is Eric Rangi Hillman. Te Whānau means the family of Wapanui. It was gifted, that part of the East Coast, from a grandfather to his grandson. Apanui Waipapa to Apanui Ringamotu. My grandfather gave me the opportunity to stand here in the absence of all males above me. Now, what does all that mean? Well, first things first, when I get on the board, communication. I'm not new to local politics. I grew up under the tables of Board of Trustees. Mr. Milan will remember I was sitting at many of the things I hated Waiheke politics. But what I hate more is the fact that I'm not connected to the issues that are moving forward in a capacity outside of what I can be. Transport, housing, communication with the elderly. I think if I can jump onto the board, I can connect parts of Waiheke that no one else can, just being honest. Communication to the people that I know that are old school locals, new school locals, access to funding, communications about how we move forward. That's me in short. Nami, thank you.
And Wayne, just get you to move that whole mic stand forward a bit. Yeah, great, thank you.
Just don't want to scare everyone. Yep, another week, another talk. I don't know why I do it to myself. I always up down the end, and all these great people have awesome ideas.
Just come a bit closer to the mic.
My biggest priority, if I was to get on the board, is to secure more funding for all these other priorities that we have. I don't have a personal priority. I think I have to act on behalf of the community. So going back to our ward councillor, Auckland Council, and getting more return on the rates that we pay, I think that is the highest priority. From there, you can divulge into forward planning, sustainable ecotourism, or just tourism in general, and get the correct infrastructure that we need. There's no point putting 100,000 people on this place, on the island, per day in our peak season and not have the correct infrastructure. And then once it's all done, we're left with the clean-up bill of re-maintaining the roads, building better stuff. So for me, it is about lobbying, communication, probably hard communication, and get the answers that we deserve for the amount of rates that we need returned to this island. It currently sits, from my understanding, at about 25% is what we get back. That's our rates. So we also pay tax. So I don't know why we're not getting more rates back. And maybe we could start using them to get some better infrastructure for our current generations, but our future generations as well. There's 100,000 priorities out there, but all I want you guys to think about when you're voting is the variety that is on offer on the board and who's going to get the most action for whatever demographic you're in. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's get into some other questions. Now, we've had questions emailed throughout the week, so I'm going to start with one of those. And Jen Glover, I'll just give you a heads up that you're going to be the next question after this, okay? So this first question is from our island's rangatahi Ropu. What would you like the local board to do to help create opportunities for rangatahi aged 18 to 24 who's staying on the island? Norm, you're up first on this one.
Yeah, I think employment is obviously key. I can see there's a lot of attraction for people that age to go to the city with more life and so on there. But I think establish some more employment here, and whether that's through trades training, apprenticeships and that sort of thing. But I see that as really important when people have got a purpose in life, and then they can enjoy more things. If they've got some money coming, they can enjoy sports. Sports is a really important part of the island, really brings the community together well. But yeah, getting employment here is really important.
Thank you. Damien Sycamore.
First and foremost, we must bring the price of housing down. 70% of the cost of living is the price of housing. I think that is fundamental. But also, we must be able to raise incomes, and it must be a more dynamic place to be a young person on the motu. We should be a leader in solar. We should be a leader in sustainable tech. We should be exporting technology, our wastewater solutions, our sustainable technology solutions, which are inchoate, which is a risky word to use standing up here in front of everybody. But we should also, Waiheke has been largely impervious to the construction downturn. We have a lot of active sites, mainly because a lot of them are at the higher end, but we should have a trades academy. It should be buttoned on to the end of high school for those who want to go down that route. There are a number of things we can do, and I really look forward to hearing about what Eric's going to say about them.
Ollie McKern.
18 to 24, well, When I was 18, I left France. My children who are in Dunedin, some of them have left Dunedin. It's nature. I mean, we're not going to keep all our children here. They have to fly, the nest. That's human nature. That's number one. Number two, there are lots of opportunities for the youth. We've got all the restaurants, the tourism, and lots of apprentices. I think 18 to 24, of course, we live on an island. It presents difficulties for this age group, and we're not going to resolve it. In terms of the housing, I think this is a red herring. I personally would never want to rent my property. I know lots of people who have second properties here, batches. Do you think they want to rent their properties? Of course not. They keep their properties for themselves, because otherwise, when you leave your house, you have to find a room, put all your belongings in order for someone to destroy potentially your house. So this is a red herring.
Bianca Ranson, what would you do to keep the, what was it? For those aged 18 to 24 who stay on the island?
I just want to first of all mahi to the rangatahi rōpū, who are an amazing, incredible group of young people, and the work that the local board has done to invest in that rōpū and the realisation of it coming together. And that was done very carefully in terms of the process that was followed to understand the demographic and also a pathway forward. And something that is really important for the Waiheke local board moving forward is that we listen to the young people and what it is that they want. And with the work that I'm doing, one of the things that is coming back to me over and over, and particularly for those that are moving off island, is that our public transport, specifically with our ferries, is that we need to see equity. We are currently being exploited, and when you are a young person who is trying to either study in Auckland or going back and forth to Auckland for different things that they are interested in or want to be involved with, the cost of that is prohibitive. And the fact that we are the only public transport that is exempt from the public transport operating model, and our ferry service being regulated like all other public transport, is making it increasingly difficult for this group of young people to be able to move freely between Auckland and Waiheke and stay as permanent residents here on the island. So I think we need to listen to the voice of the young people. As a local board, we need to secure funding that will enable them to achieve the projects or initiatives that they feel are important, and also that we keep on fighting for equity over exploitation when it comes to our public ferry transport service. Kia ora.
Dan Hamilton.
Everything she said. I have worked with the Rangatahi Rōpū in a capacity as a mentor, working to upskill a few rangatahi to be able to put on live music events, and that's through marketing, budgeting, managing the event, etc. And it was a really great experience. But I think that rangatahi need to be able to determine what they need, and the local board, they need to be able to come to the local board and to other organizations in discussion so that everybody knows actually what they benefit from. A top-down approach doesn't work for most things. Like, it doesn't work really for government. It doesn't work for kids. It did not work for me. I think that, to be able to allow people to live on island and actually work on island, and I'm not talking about people who might be commuting, which happens, obviously. My son's 20 and he goes across to uni every day. But to be engaged in the island and listen to rangatahi, to hear about what engages them and what could make them inspired. So that's what I think.
Eileen Matthews.
So So the rangatahi rōpū came out of the youth needs assessment that the local board put together, which they actually did themselves. So they went through the whole process of learning how to ask questions to be able to get the answers that they came up with, which showed that they needed a place to be. They wanted various cultural events and to be able to be more prevalent in our community. And so that was really insightful of the way in which they learned how to put this all together for themselves. And I acknowledge Robin Tucker, another outgoing local board candidate who also drummed into me the opportunity that we have here with our internet capacity and how we could definitely use that for things like the youth learning how to create games and to put together things in that internet space. So I'll leave it there and I'll hand it over to Eric to continue with some of that awesome mahi that he's got to talk about.
Yeah, I think Eric might have something to say about internet or games. Eric, bring it on.
Firstly, I'd just like to say ngā mihi for all the kōrero, aroha mai for the increase in volume. I'd also just have to touch on it. A big reason why I love the rangatahi kōrero, but why it's hard for me to stand here, is we just lay our niece to rest last week. It was a week ago today, Rārua. I love my niece. I always wanted her to come up here. I come from a background of working with youth at risk, working at Waiheke Primary, helping out at Te Hurihi and at Waiheke High, as well as back in the days down at the fair down there. For me specifically, to tautoko what everyone's saying, it's about job opportunities. And I'm speaking more in the capacity that I'll be doing myself, but then in growing it. I want our kids starting businesses at high school on Waiheke, whether it's t-shirt businesses. I want them running their own businesses. I come from a network where this isn't impossible, this is the norm. If we're going to compete and our rangatahi who struggle on Waiheke are going to compete, we need to upskill them. There's enough resources in this room to give them a lot of mana, to be able to run against our mate over there for the mayor of Tamaki Makaurau. There's so much strength on Waiheke. I met Bill Gates down the road here, not the most popular fella now, but he gave me that vision that I can do things, starting businesses, passive income overseas, tourism. Our kids can make games. I see one of them in here. I've got two of them jobs already in the tech and game development space, and that's the start, regardless of if I make this or not. If I do, the goal is to ensure that we can get them into kaitiakitanga. They'll be working at Te Korowai by the time they're 18, in whatever capacity. They'll be working with Blair and them, they'll be at the marae, they'll be connected to the sports clubs. Our rangatahi will dominate, regardless of if I make it or not. I'll be making that happen.
It's a pretty famous name drop. I think the most famous person I've seen on the island was David Gilmour from Pink Floyd, down at Only Rock. Wayne McIntosh, your turn.
Yeah, it's a tricky one with youth and careers. You want to make sure they prosper and chase their dreams, which normally means moving off the island. There is two demographics. There is the ones who are always going to go to university, which the public transport comes into play there with the commuting. It is generally easier to flat share over in Auckland, go to university, and then we lose these young generations from Waiheke for years to come until they decide to come back with a family or when they can afford it, which also goes into the affordable housing. My thing is, I grew up, I was born in Hawke's Bay, but I grew up in Australia. They had a really, really good program, which was TAFE, New South Wales over there. I know we've got the Marlborough Nelson Institute of Technology, which you can study distance, but I'm very grassroots. We need to get into the schools, particularly the high schools, and get into the careers advisors and let these young generations understand what jobs there are on Waiheke, because with the tourism sector, with ecotourism, you can go anywhere. You can become a ferry captain, you can get into the bus driving, the routes like that. You can get into viticulture, horticulture. There's so many different industries at Waiheke that you can also get into the marine, environmental sciences and the marines as well. I think if we were to generally look to keep generations staying here after school, we need to look into those that career development where they can prosper, study on the island and stay here. That would be my suggestion, but it's a very tricky one to stop kids with aspirations leaving.
Right, Jen Glover, if you want to make your way to the microphone on the floor, and while Jen's doing that, the people latecomers, there are a couple of seats down the front, so now's a good time to make your way there. Over to you, Jen.
Kia ora koutou. Waiheke has an aging population, as we've heard, who can struggle to access health services on the mainland and would prefer to receive their care closer to home. In addition, Te Patu Ora is working to shift many specialist services to community-based providers. How would you support Waiheke's health services to manage these increased demands, especially given the age, condition, and limited sizes of the island's clinics and the national challenges around healthcare staff recruitment?
Thank you. And I missed Josie on the last question, so I'm going to circle back to that. But let's pick up Jen's question now, and we'll come back to you on that one, Josie. So, Damien, you're up on this.
Great question, Jen. Good to see you again. I think so much of the pressure on our health system comes from the pressure on our housing system. And I know that sounds glib to link these so quickly, but an unaffordable housing market means there's not enough money left over for good heating. It means there's not enough money left over for good food. It puts pressure on primary healthcare providers. It puts pressure on the entire system. There's also an inflexibility in the way that Waiheke currently plans for and provisions for our elderly to be able to age in place. One of the things that the Housing Trust, which I am the GM of, is pushing for at the moment is to make it easier for our elderly that are in 3 or 4 bedroom homes to build those fit for purpose with wet areas, flat, with handrails, without stairs, those granny flats, in order for them to be able to age more gracefully in place, which is a policy directive that since 2002 everyone in New Zealand has understood as a requirement to be able to maintain dignity as people get older. But if our elderly are able to age better in their homes whilst generating an income by renting out their other place, if that is what they decide to do, then by downsizing and moving into those more fit-for-purpose places, which is difficult given our current planning regime. And note, as Bianca said, the Hauraki Gulf Islands District Plan is up for review next year. So this is the kind of thing that a local board needs to be advocating for. That is how I believe we can alleviate some of that pressure on Waiheke's immensely pressurised health system.
Sorry. There are two facets to this issue. On the one hand, and I deal on a daily basis with dementia, not me, thank God for that. We have a great support. We've got RDNS, if there is anyone working, I mean, you guys are amazing, age concern. There are all sorts of support for elderly people. I think, from what I perceive, and I've met hundreds and hundreds of pensioners, people with difficulties, people healthy, we are very, I mean, I'm 58, anyway, we are pretty well looked after, all right, given the small population. Now, what I've witnessed, the other facet, is that at some stage, it becomes an issue. If you have to go to the hospital once a week, or this or that, whatever, then what I've witnessed is a lot of people leave the island. And sometimes it's done by choice. They have to. That's the logic. So we can fight as much as we want, whatever organizations. What the local board can do is support what is existing at the moment. And, give a lot of help, financial if we can, whatever, with those agencies that look after our frail and healthy pensioners.
Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you for your question. And I just want to first of all acknowledge our nurses who have been striking and calling for fairer funding and safer staffing conditions. And I think just even to look at a central government point of view of what's happening with our healthcare system is deeply concerning. And moving away from public healthcare, I feel like more kind of gradually towards the privatisation of it. And I think when we come down onto our community level and what it is that we're able to offer our community here on Waiheke that are some significant gaps there. I personally have a friend who's just turned or about to just turn 80 who went to hospital in the city and now can actually not return back to the island because there is not the care here for her that she needs. And so we are missing those opportunities, particularly if it's a hospice or some kind of a care facility that people need here, right through to rehabilitation of having a safe, heated public swimming pool. I know people who are having to go, particularly our senior members of our community, over to Auckland for those services. And so I guess the important thing is that for the local board, we do have an opportunity to be able to understand how we can bring some of those services together in a way that is going to provide more of an opportunity for people to receive healthcare here on Waiheke and not have to travel all the way to Green Lane or Auckland Central Hospital or be reliant on other services such as hospice over in the central city. But thank you for your question.
Yeah. And one of the great things is we've got so many people in the community put up their hand to be part of the local board, but there's a lot of people. So we'll just get you, Jen, if you can just kind of briefly repeat the crux of your question.
Sure, I'll have to get it back out. So we were talking about our aging population and how challenging it is to access healthcare in town for them, and also the fact that a lot of specialist services are being pushed back into the community and primary care by Te Whatu Ora. So given the real limitations all of our island primary care providers have around aging facilities, size of our facilities, condition of our facilities, as well as how hard it is nationally to recruit healthcare providers, what could you do to support the excellent healthcare services that exist on the island?
Yeah, thank you. Zan?
It's a really great question. To answer it properly, to be honest, I'd probably have to give it a lot more thought because it's not my area of expertise. I do think that one thing that we need to do, which has been touched on, is return some rates back to the community and work on trying to get more money also from a potential visitor levy from Auckland-wide or maybe in the district management plan, however that's going to pan out, to be able to better support infrastructure and facilities and healthcare professionals on the island, because healthcare is underpaid. And I understand that and I see that and everyone feels that. And we lose healthcare professionals regularly, semi-regularly. It seems more stable right now, which is great. But that's something. I mean, everyone loves to have repeat service by the same people, so there's a rapport. So I really think that some of it comes down to more capital to be able to continue to pay for these services.
Thank you. Harley Matthews.
It all comes down to infrastructure. So knowing that we don't have fit-for-purpose facilities is something that the local board has, through CAD's direction, we've been looking at quite a lot on how we could support some of these integrated health hubs, as I mentioned earlier, which is an initiative from the Waiheke Health Trust, and having a fit-for-purpose infrastructure means that we can provide all of the services in-house, which means that we're probably going to get a better quality of service because people aren't missing appointments by not going over on the ferry. So I think we've got the opportunity at the moment with the portfolio review to look at what council facilities could potentially be refitted and repurposed so that we can all have these integrated health hubs on the island. Yeah, kia ora.
Eric, Rainey Hillman.
Despite the previous question being the assumption that I had the most expertise, I would actually say this is probably closer to a question. No, I'm not meaning it all.
No, but I'd love to hear too about how Rangatahi could be trained up to be our next generation of healthcare providers.
I was challenged about 3 months ago down at, I won't say which store, but in Onero here, by one of our kuia, one of our older wahine. And she said to me, you need to include the elderly and the youth in kaitakitanga, guardianship. One of the big things, and I wrote it down, taking my cheeky little notes, such complex writings, is community communication. Now, what I mean by that is, for me, my grandmother, Kathleen Hillman, a number of us, when we were growing up, there was elderly people there all the time. If we did some damage to a bus stop, the elderly person there saw us. What I'm talking about there is community communication between healthcare providers through to the elderly. My part of Onero, if the storm's coming, I clear the drains. If people are sick and it's cold, we check on each other. I get that from Marley and Gray, previously of Forest and Bird. In a capacity that I think is achievable in relation to what the other board members can bring, I think that's a huge part of it, is connecting the younger ones to the older ones. I'm just saying it'll take the edge off. There's some beautiful nurses here. I've been fixed up more times than most people my age in the last few years. One would be ensuring they don't do stunts while they're going to pick up rubbish off the coastline. That's something I'll advocate for. But no, realistically, jokes aside, it's a very serious conversation. I believe a lot of the candidates up here with me, past and to come, there needs to be more money put in. But in the meantime, what can we communicate and what can we do to sort of hit it at a holistic level to take a bit of that edge off? We might not be able to improve things, but if we can get the feeling a little bit better, a bit more hopeful, while we're on the road to more funding, I believe that'll help the healthcare providers. Thank you.
Yeah, this is the story of my life. My mother's been a registered nurse for 40 years, and she specialised in hospices and aged care. So every year she comes and visits, she tells me that our infrastructure is far below average. She's gone into the medical centre and she's appalled at what she sees. She is based in Australia, but she done her nursing in Hawke's Bay in the early days, and she generally gets disappointed. The only way that I could suggest, me personally, is coming back to advocating to get more of our rates money back and get some fit-for-purpose infrastructure built. Now, I can say a lot of crazy stuff because I don't know what in the background's going on, but there's the old Blackpool School. I'm not sure what that land is used for, but you could build an actual little mini island hospital and get the correct infrastructure so we don't have to deal with what we're currently going to do. That's all I can promise. It's to try and advocate to get more funding and push for what should be basic amenities on the island already.
Not up. Thanks, you,
It's tricky going at the end. It was fun going first. I've seen so many amazing initiatives from the Waiheke Health Trust. Ultrasounds now on the island. I mean, it saves so much time and money. So big thank you. The X-rays. So yes, I'm not the expert in the room. I'm here to advocate and to listen and help us find some more funding. I was the Sculpture on the Gulf event manager and trying to get St John's or any sort of emergency services support during that time. It wasn't possible. And we didn't want to overload our doctors' services and emergency services here. So 8 of us got trained, but, being on the coalface, worrying about what's going to happen if somebody has something serious. I mean, you guys were there. We knew that we could still come to you for support, but we didn't want to overrun our services. So look forward to helping you with solutions if we've got an amazing selection of people that will help. Thank you.
And last candidate on this question, Norm Robbins.
Yes, we've obviously got a national problem here with the amount of funding going to Whatuora. We hear this same sort of issue of rural and semi-rural areas struggling for healthcare all over the country. I wasn't aware of the local board's initiative with these integrated health hubs that Kylie's talking about. That sounds a great idea. Other than that, really, I think obviously the cost of living on the island is a real holdback for a lot of people to come and live here. I know we've lost healthcare workers because it's too expensive to live here. So what Damien's talking about in trying to get some better housing, some more affordable housing is part of the equation as well. Yep, but it's a big one.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen. Thanks for the question. We can come back to Josie on the youth question, but while she's doing that, Kim Whitaker, if you can make your way to the microphone, because you'll be up next, and Kath Hanley, just letting you know that you'll be the one after that. But yeah, I'm sorry for missing you before, Josie, on the question about 18 to 24-year-olds who stay on the island and what we can do to give them opportunities.
Thank you. I've got a 12-year-old. I'd love for her to come back to the island one day. We know they come and go. I currently work with the Waiheke Wine Growers Association, and we're doing some work with the high school to get them involved in tourism and viticulture and hospitality. So definitely connecting our businesses and our rangatahi and giving them those opportunities and recognising that there are those opportunities on the island. So it's that give and take. Something I did want to mention for the other question, I think I've got 30 seconds. Blue zones, just putting it out there. When we're talking about our rangatahi and our elderly and connections and being part of a community, it would help solve a lot if we can connect to each other some more, whether that's in the schools and teaching and training and work experience and getting our rangatahi and elderly together. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we've got a question from Kim Whitaker.
Sure. Mine's a very practical one. And first of all, I'd like to say I admire you all for your willingness to put yourselves forward. It's a very demanding thing to do. And that's really what I'm going to ask, is a very practical thing. You may have wonderful ideas about what you want to do, but how much time do each of you think you are going to devote per week in hours to your local board work? And as a second part, what do you think is a reasonable percentage of the official meetings and the workshops that you should attend? And I will tell you, I've looked at the last 3 years' attendance for the local board, and there is some rather extreme variation.
Ollie Leclerc.
Fabulous question. Well, if I'm elected, it's going to be my main focus, 100%. I drive taxi, but I can always talk to the punters. I go to the supermarket, and I talk to the workers, Lisa, Michelle, you know them all. Actually, I would breathe the local board on a daily basis. And that's what everyone should do, because it's a privilege to be elected. And if you're just going to spend, 20%, 30%, I think you should, just do something else. This is a privilege to be elected by you. Thank you.
I think Ollie's putting his hand up for chair. The full-time role.
I want to chair.
Yeah, so I think it depends on how much you can commit, and I think it's a really good question because some people may have full-time jobs as well as wanting to do local board. So the chair role and the deputy chair role definitely require more time and hours than being a board member. And I also, am aware that the business meetings, obviously, and the workshops, the business meetings are the ones they're all really important, but extremely important, the business meetings. So you do have to have enough time to be able to commit to what is needed, which is at the moment pretty much all of a Wednesday during the workday, and then being able to be contactable or be able to get back to issues during the week as well via email or via phone. So that's my understanding of the current kind of requirements. So I'm not sure how that will change with the new board, but I know that definitely the majority of us have been available most days every Wednesday.
Thank you. Dan Hamilton.
Okay. My understanding is that it's at least you need to be at the meetings. I mean, I would want to be at the meetings and at the workshops because I want to know what's going on. And I'm a little bit more. I work part-time. I work for a disability organization, focusing on mental health as well. But I kind of have a little bit of a radical view. It's not really radical. I'm just joking. Going out into the community to actually talk to people, going to community meetings, which is not saying that no one else does this. Kylie's very good at the community for sure. Since Bianca, I mean, we all have our community focuses. But for when they're like with a I'll give you an example. With Have Your Say, instead of just saying there's a Have Your Say open, you go into Rocky Bay, and maybe you'll go to Rocky Bay Cafe on the weekend and be available for people to come there so that they can talk to you about things. Or go to a meeting at WRT or have a meeting at WRT. But go into the community so that you are approachable and people can ask questions about local board processes, et cetera. So I think that as far as I'm concerned, you're working at least for the meetings, in addition to reading whatever the material is, and then doing the other things.
Thank you. Kylie Matthews.
Thanks, Kim. It is a reminder that we are funded by the taxpayers, so making sure that they get the best out of us is really important. There are guidelines, so local board members are between 10 and 12 hours a week. Deputy chair, it's between 12 and 20 hours, and the chair is a full-time role at 40 hours a week. So that's the minimum that is required, and making sure that the fastest turnaround that we have is on the consents, where they require us to have like a three-day turnaround. So by the time you read through all of the materials and you're able to get your feedback in is quite quick. As Bianca acknowledged, that there are people that do have full-time roles and working in that space and life, as we know, often sort of does take us away on a few things. But attendance is, 100% ideally, but the reality is somewhere around the 80% mark for that. Thanks.
And on attendance and time on the board, Eric Rangi-Helman.
This is one of the favourite questions I love to ask myself as well. I've been anticipating getting into this role for many years. Not just this role, but my role on the island with working with rangatahi and the environment in whatever capacity. Going back to everything you listed, my goal is 100% of what I can make. My previous job is hosting funerals, Tangi. I've cut a lot of that off. Hosting events like Kotahi Aroha, which will be up at the high school here, same thing. I'm training people up. The capacity that I have to do things in the environment, even that's getting cold. My passive income primarily comes from the digital space. I already do 20 to 30 hours every single week in our environment here. I look forward to taking that 20 to 30 to apply it more directly to what we're discussing. Correlating it also with attending everything I can, but not just that. Hopefully communicating that in a way that hasn't been seen on the board to people in the demographic that are voting me in, who I think are a big part of this island who don't understand that communication. I look forward to hopefully hitting that high mark. We say over 9,000 votes. That's a meme. But I would like to hit 99% if I could, and what that means is all the people I know here need to stay alive, because short of people passing away, I'll try and attend everything I can.
Ryan McIntosh.
For me, if elected, you're elected to represent, and representing is being present. So if you're not present, you're not representing. You're not fit for purpose, and there'd be a limit to what would be acceptable or not. For me, I was a full-time employee. I actually work for a company who's given me 100% flexibility. My wife is not here, although she might listen to this, and I'm walking away from $250,000 of equity to represent on my local board for my community. That's how passionate I am about this, and I just want to be on the island as much as I can. As I said, I'm probably not going to lie, there's going to be some days where if there's something on a Saturday, me and Terry got golf, so I might not be there, but I would be looking to do 100% and commit to those Wednesdays and more that was involved or needed.
Thank you for the question. I'm kind of after better work stories as well. I want to be involved in the community. I've always given back. I've always had my volunteer hours. W3, Waiheke Connect, Artworks Theatre. I work for myself. I have flexible hours. I've got a flexible family as such. I'm here, I'm present, and yeah, I want to get involved and give back. So the hours are there, and I'm ready to do the work. Thank you.
Ian Roberts.
Yeah, this is something I've certainly thought about and putting my name forward. I would expect to spend, the 1 day a week with board meetings and workshops at least. Then I would anticipate a lot of reading reading around that as well, and attending various meetings and so on, which will crop up throughout the week from time to time. I'm fortunate in I work part-time. I work 3 days a week for Te Koroia Waiheke at the moment, checking stoke traps. So I have that flexibility to put the time into it. I expect I will get bailed up for things, whether it's a golf club or with a running club or Waiheke Rapbusters or other things that I'm involved in, Mackenzie Reserve. You're there to answer questions all the time, I think, and be up to the speed with what's going on with the local board so you can respond to people. Sure.
Great question, Kim. Everyone should almost applaud Kim for his performance in the council chambers about a month and a half ago, representing us to limit how many helicopters there should be on Waiheke. And an equally excellent question from you, Kim. So in 2021 and 2022, I was the head of revenue for a successful construction software company. I worked hard and I got paid considerably more than I get paid as the GM of the Waiheke Community Housing Trust. But every single time I went for a run, the only things I thought about were what sort of world and Waiheke was my son going to be born into? And why is housing so expensive for people of my generation? And why have we misused so much of New Zealand's natural capital? Now, I'm focused on Waiheke these days, and that meant that I re-engineered my life to no longer be the head of revenue for a successful construction software company and to start working as the GM of the Waiheke Community Housing Trust, to go to the community networks meeting every month and to really begin to understand and do the research about what our local board does. So, since I became the GM of the Community Housing Trust, I've worked for 25 to 30 hours every week, leaving a jigsaw-pieced hole for the responsibilities that the local board will demand of me if I'm elected. I greatly look forward to contending with all of the issues that the Waiheke community thinks need our representation on. Kia ora.
Thank you for your question, Kim. So while Kath makes her way to the microphone, I'm going to throw a quick-fire question to the panel. So you don't all need to answer this. You only need to answer this if it applies. So I'm paraphrasing a question here from Adrian Walden. So sometimes in the board's considerations, there are going to be issues where you have a conflict of interest and have to withdraw from the consideration of that matter. So if you're in that situation, I'll just ask you to let us know what those issues or matters might be where you would have to withdraw because of a conflict of interest. I think, Bianca, you're first on this. And as I say, you only have to answer if there is some.
Potentially Artworks board, Artworks money.
Okay, thanks, Anne. And here's Bianca.
Probably the Waiheke Native Bird Rescue, because I'm on the board.
Thank you. Just carrying on down the line. There's Kylie.
I think I've divulged all of mine, but previously I did have a conflict of interest with the Homegrown Waiheke Gardening Trust. So I just stood aside for that and left the room when the discussion was happening. Thanks.
Thank you. Eric?
Probably funding to my business that'll be pushing forward next year, developing apps for the environment, not trying to poach that funding.
Right.
Touchy one. I'm the Waiheke Golf Club captain.
I think that's why Adrian asked the question.
There's no exit to my left either. Just checked. It is an issue that I've been asked about before, and I would step aside if there was a conflict of interest, but the golf club lease is before Auckland Council, and once that is signed, it is the Ototei Sports Park, which encompasses riding, tennis, rugby, soccer and golf. So I would be pretty hesitant to step aside for a conflict of interest if it was in the community's best interest and I could offer the information that no other person would have. But if I was asked to, I would step aside.
Josie? More? Damien?
The Waiheke Community Housing Trust has received a $20,000 grant from the local board in a previous year. If I have received advice from some current local board members and some staff from the local board, we do not foresee a conflict of interest, but if I had to stand aside whilst discussions were had around housing, I would rest assured that I've had excellent conversations with my local board colleagues to make sure that we're making the right decisions for our community to rebalance the housing market in favour of those of us who call it home, call Waiheke home.
Anything from your water?
Yeah, well, I'm a blank canvas. I've got no conflict of interest, zero. Vote for me.
That was opportunistic, but oh, Sam's thought of something else.
Sorry, I do have something. I have two more. Cycle Action Waiheke and Waiheke Connect are both have both been able to do fantastic things because of funding and support from the local board. So those would also be two things I'd have to recuse myself from.
And Damien's thought of something else?
Just to be clear, there are 5 trustees on the Waiheke Community Housing Trust. I'm the GM. I execute on what the strategy is that they have set.
And I just have to say, we want people who are connected to our community on our board, right? So it's good that all of these people are active in all of these groups, and thank you for being involved. Now we have the current local board chair. There's a droopy microphone.
It's going to stay, is it?
Okay, Kath Hanley has a question for us. Give it a go, Kath.
Yeah, I will. Kia ora koutou. Fantastic. I feel fantastic because I'm leaving. I feel fantastic that I know we had 12, now we've got 11. It's kind of who will be left standing by the time the election's over, but I am thrilled with the calibre of new candidates. One of the reasons is that I'm really looking at and following what Kim was talking about, one's capacity to actually do the mahi and spend the time doing it. I think board members have minimised actually what that involves. And I've been on 3 boards, and workloads by board members have dropped away, not because the work's not there, it's just, I think, particularly COVID has played a role across everywhere with respect, because I've just been with the other 20 chairs of local boards today, and it's, a reasonably common issue. I have almost burned out multiple times in this term, which I never did in the preceding 2. And the reason is that there is a significant workload outside of contact time, preferably in the room, which is workshops and business meetings. That is quite a load, and the job is changing for you when you get there. It won't be the same job. And the reason is that one of the fights has been for fairer funding. Whoop, we got it. And Waiheke gets 2% of a total pool. When the total pool of funding goes up, we get 2% in total of that. So there is more funding. With that comes more responsibility and some other decisions. Auckland Transport is part of the new setup. When it's legislated, it'll come through about March next year. It'll be implemented in 6 months, so that we're talking to the people who will take over some transport decision making, albeit we rely on staff all over to provide materials, but you've got to read the materials. We have a huge number of consents. We get a 3-day turnaround that we have to do. We get landowner approvals. We've got to manage in a certain time frame. We do that by majority, but it's behind the scenes. We have deadlines on submissions, and I didn't count the ones this term. Last term, we responded to 55 changes in legislation or regulation. So legislation is central government, regulation is council. So there is a lot of reading to be done, and you've got to keep on top of it. And even we flag emails with deadlines to read it by. So, you know, the issue for me is we need, going forward with a lot of changes, we've got RMA changing, and fortunately there's a couple of candidates who've got RMA background. And there's going to be a lot of work just gripping up on this. We've got the work on the unitary plan, the Hauraki Gulf Islands District Plan being reviewed in total before it is, whether it is or not, accommodation into the unitary plan. There are other changes in legislation as well. So having said that, I'm really interested in the work ethos. Does it sound a bit much for you? Can you do the actual hours? And the actual hours for a member are, so a member earns half what the chair does. The chair's job's full-time plus. So, you know, that is the 12 to 20 hours. So deputy chairs get 60% of what a chair does. So are you up for it? And what is your relevance going forward? And I'm not asking you for the big thing. I'm asking you for one or two. You don't have to be experts in RMA to answer that question. Thank you.
All right, sobering thoughts, and I think maybe there's not 9 candidates left anymore. No. Some of them have pulled out.
It's not hard work, it's work.
Yeah. So we have addressed this question to a degree before, but let's just see if anyone's got anything that they want to add to that. I believe we're up to Zan to kick this one off.
I'm up for it, Kath. Yay. I actually have, well, my husband tells me I've got a problem of doing something less than I'm supposed to do it. I'm kind of a workaholic, which isn't necessarily a great thing either, because that means I'm always working and I see my family maybe not as much as I should, but I get that from my dad. I have worked a lot with transportation in either advocacy or, I mean, right now I'm working with the Lead Alliance, just working on some documents that they're good. Anyway, I'm up for it, Kath. I can.
Thanks for the question. And it just reminds me that this job is going to take as much time as you have to give it. So I think once you step outside your door, you're reminded every day of why we do this. And that's why I'm standing here today, because I have done 2 terms. I do know what is required of it, and I know that with you stepping down that there is going to be a lot more work on all of us to be able to pick up. So I think that making sure that there's really good systems around checking your emails every morning, being able to check them maybe twice a day if you're working full-time, and then also attending those business meetings, and then all of the work, business and workshop meetings every week, and then also all of the pre-reading that needs to get done to get your head around. And then that's not even the community engagement, and then we've got community engagement. So, you know, even though the chair role is like a full-time role, it can be spread over multiple days. You know, it's not just it finishes at Friday at 5 o'clock like most work. So definitely up for it, and definitely up for like ideally full-time. That would be my ideal. 6 years of having been learning the process really slowly, and now hopefully having that time to be able to delve into it full-time would be a good, ideal situation for me. Kia ora. Kia ora.
Kia ora, tuakana. I think for me specifically, I'm a spider in a web. What I mean by that is I've been pushed forward for the New Zealand Game Developers Association chair years back. Wasn't going to take it, not qualified. This, on the other hand, I've got Uncle Mike Lee, Auntie Sandra Lee, Jacinda's best mate is one of my best mates. There's a number of people I've been talking to about the ins and outs of what it was like for them and their roles. Technically speaking, I love this. I'm passionate about it. Even the complexities around it, in terms of what comes in, the reviewing process, being able to step in and see what the adjustments are in these areas. Having grown up around it to an extent, I hated it, Kath. I hated knowing about essentially Waiheke because I was a kid under the table. I'm not interested in the big role. Mana to you for taking it. I'm interested in doing the best I can, but in terms of getting ahead of things, emails, that's my sector. Being able to train language learning models myself in my own capacity to help with that will be something I'll be working on as well. Hopefully they can assist me in doing the role, which I don't doubt will be very challenging. But I've got a good network. I am just that spider in the web, but I look forward to it because challenges are what I'm here for. And if I can get rid of digging 200-300 graves, well, yeah, I can fill that in. Give it a good crack anyway, but only 3 years.
Josh.
Work ethic. I don't have any concerns with the work ethic that's going to come along with the position. I come from aviation aerospace background. If I'm to service Kim's helicopter, but if I was to service a helicopter, that pilot needs to fly the next day for his business to survive. I would work through the night. I'm not afraid of that. I've also held previous positions of leading teams that built engines that went to the moon. So long hours, diligence, responsibility and commitment I have no concerns about. If anything, I look forward to spending more time on the island doing this and enjoy reading the data that is provided.
I was going to say earlier, the job's not rocket science, but in your case.
He's a rocket scientist, by the way.
Josie.
Kia ora. I'm up for it. I had this conversation with my stepdad on my way home to Karikari at the end of 7th form, and I'd called up the Mount Albert Labour Office to see if there's any jobs going, and there wasn't. And I've always looked back and gone, what if I had done that role back then? So it's something I've always wanted to do. I'm a comms person, I'm a project manager, I'm a juggler. I'm always busy. And yes, I want to be involved in this community and know what's going on and communicate what's going on and make stuff happen, because that's what I do. Thanks.
Yeah, some of the duties that will come up in this term are really of interest to me, particularly the planning thing with the review of the district plan and potential integration with the unit plan. But the whole government change to the RMA could swamp a whole lot of that. But the important things are going to be maintaining an identity for Waiheke and not losing community input to things, and the government potentially dumbing down environmental issues. But yeah, I've worked in working on resource consents for councils and for consultants. I worked under pressure getting the timelines out. So I've been doing that for sort of 30, 40 years. So that side, the planning side, is of great interest to me. And also the transportation with my background. And this is potentially the biggest change in transportation in the island going to have for a long time, with Auckland Transport, devolving responsibilities to Auckland Council and then down to local board. Yeah, I'm really excited with what can happen in that way. So, yeah, and that's not to say I'm not interested in the environment and my other side of predator control and all that sort of thing that I do as well. But, yeah, I'm up to the work.
Thank you.
Joe Kath, thank you. Great question. I was sure you were going to say at the end of your litany of responsibilities that you've got through over the last 3-6 years, maybe nine, apologies, was that you had a really good time doing it as well. Obviously, it didn't squeak through. I made sure to reach out to all 5 current sitting board members to have coffee with them over the last 6 months. I asked them a number of questions, but one of them was about that workload and about the demands, about the demand on family life. I've considered all of their responses and decided that it's something that I want to do and am capable of doing. But similar to Eric, I also bring a very strong network of advisors and mentors that I'm able to ask if I'm not an expert, or just full stop, to make sure that I know and get that comprehensive answer. Waiheke is a complicated place, and there have been a lot of initiatives and history behind initiatives that, if they go unacknowledged, you do a great disservice and disrespect to all of that mahi aroha and work that has gone on beforehand. Waiheke's got a deep, rich history, and it behoves all of us to make sure that we're conversant in all of that. It is a big responsibility, but yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mentioned that I drive taxi, but I drive whenever I want. So if you vote for me, I will be 100% committed. I've done to the board, to the issues. I can read. I've got a master's degree that took a bit of work to write, the thesis. I was a teacher in a private high school in Los Angeles, and some of you might be teachers. It's a lot of work. It's probably harder than being a board member. So I want to stand. I'm standing because I've got lots of energy. I've got passion for this place, and I'm not going to cut corner, even if the work might be, boring sometimes. I will do it. I've got a lot to learn, but I've got also a lot to give. 100%. And as you said, I don't know, let's say it's $30,000, okay? I need $70 a day. I've done my budget. I don't have any debts. I don't have any mortgage. Food, electricity, rates. I'm not doing that for the money. I'm doing that because I'm passionate about this place. I left Dunedin and I came here, because I want to be here. I've got no problem with Waiheke. We can make it better. Oh, yes, someone said that. But thanks a lot. Remember to vote, no matter what.
Bianca.
Kia ora. I just want to start off by mentioning that the the PSNA, the Palestine Solidarity Network, Aotearoa, currently has a huge international legal action against Rocket Lab for complicity in the genocide in Gaza. They capture satellite images out of Aotearoa that are used to pinpoint and drop bombs that have killed tens of thousands of civilians in Palestine. I just wanted to start off by saying that. Secondly, yes, it's been a hectic couple of years. We have organised a hikoi from the top of the North Island down to Porneke over 9 days and created the biggest submissions ever of 300,000 submissions against a government that has been on a full-on attack against Māori, against our language, against our healthcare, against our treaty rights, against our local democracy, against nature. And so on all fronts, particularly if you are tangata whenua in this country, the last couple of years have been probably the most full-on political time of my lifetime, if not of people in this country, since the establishment of government here. I'd also like to say that there's an incredible amount of expertise up here, and I'm really excited by some of the things that I'm hearing that people are very specialised in or educated about. And you can have someone that's sitting there going through 40 hours a week, dilly-dallying, doing whatever, but if you have people who are actually experts who know what they're doing in specific areas, and you have a board that is made up of people that are really covering a broad range of things that are really important to our community, I think that's a really strategic way of voting and thinking about who is on the board. I'm also really thankful to the leadership of Kath. Undoubtedly incredible leadership as a chair, ability to kind of like hold what is happening in a way that for new members we've been able to grow and learn and experience. And I'm also really excited for what a new board may look like and the dynamics between board members as well. Moving forward, that may bring a new opportunity for cohesion and strength as a board moving forward. So undoubtedly there's a range of different things that require our time and our energy, and given the extreme conditions that we're under at the moment, if we care about social housing, if we care about universal healthcare, if we care about democracy, if we care about te tiriti, and our commitment to moving forward as a flourishing, thriving, amazing country, then we need to reflect those decisions here and stand up for our marginalised communities, those that are under threat. Whether it was Palestine, we were there as a board. When our Takatapui and Rainbow community were attacked by Destiny Church, we stood up as a board for those in our community that were hurting. So my just last thing, thank you, that I'm going to say is that there is just, I agree, the calibre of people up here, but what each of us are able to bring to the table in terms of the workload that is needed to be achieved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question, Pat. Apologies, Elizabeth. I don't think we're going to get to your question because we've got one more that we've given them earlier that we need to cover off. But your question was about the qualities that people bring to the role, and I think, from the conversation this evening, there's been a lot of that, a lot of that exposed. So the question, this next question, in the course of the interviews that we've held with people over the last month or so, there's been a lot of talk about kind of quite big, lofty and important issues: housing, transport, environment, and so on. Not so much on culture and heritage, but big issues. Ollie, in his interview, was one who came in literally at ground level and proposed a number of capital funding projects. You heard him talk about them before as 3 priorities. And a lot of the work of the board is around making those kind of decisions about what are we going to spend our money locally on, what are the priorities. So I've asked each of the candidates to identify, let me see what I wrote down, what their priority for capital funding. What's their top priority? And I think we're starting with Kylie.
Oh, the head's just spinning. There's quite a few.
You can give us one.
But just one would be definitely the micro hubs. So having worked with Electrify Waiheke, and what we're looking at is equity of power supply. So the micro hubs is a way in which we could harness the energy from solar, store it, and then feed it back out at the grid at a suitable time. So yeah, I'm really interested in micro hubs. That would be my number one. Thanks.
Aroha mai too, I had no sleep by the time I did my interview, so I'm well aware it'll contrast with what I've said previously. Specifically, for me, the funding would go into the thing I touched on before, which is environmentalism, kaitakitanga. If it's anything like being in the groups I've been in previously, whether it was in corporate and game development, I don't know how much we're going to be able to move. We don't know how much we're going to be able to move. Kath has said it really well. What I do know specifically is that putting some time and resources into some basic stuff to start off the campaign, if I'm lucky enough to get on. And WRT and the team up there already do a fantastic job with this money. Gloves, bins, things like that. I mean, I'm just talking about straight off the bat. That's not much money. We've got people here in Oneroa that already do that. Unatangi, Palm Beach, Rocky Bay. I'm not going to miss out other bays because of bias. There's one called Unatangi, I think, somewhere out there. I think a bit of funding in that area straight off the bat can showcase why and what we can do. We have as much coastline as the whole of Aotearoa, but we can access a lot more of it than anywhere else. I think funding into picking up plastics on Waiheke will just pump things straight through and through back into rangatahi and to a lot of the issues that have been talked about in terms of engaging with our elder community as well.
Wayne, your priority for capital funding?
I've always, through this whole process, said that I didn't think my priorities were key, but as you've asked for them, my key priority would be to look after the well-being of all our sporting organisations on the island. We are surrounded by water. Whilst the pool is still ongoing, it is key for that to be established before the Surf Life Saving Club can be looked after and supported a bit more. My proposal is, and after speaking to the Surf Life Saving Club, is to incorporate them with the golf club and create a true community facility on the Otatangi Sports Park. We can also incorporate the pony club and the tennis club as well. So that would be one of my priorities. And then actually, weirdly enough, I agree with Ollie. I play golf every Saturday. And there definitely needs to be a walkway for health and safety reasons along Otatangi Strait. Because by the time people have gone to 5 wineries and they're on their way back, they're in the middle of the road, half cut. So that is a very big concern. It's a true thing. It's going to change someone's life. Someone's going to die. or someo's going to hit them who's local and it's going to change their life forever. So there is a lot of things to do, but just looking after the sporting communities, I think.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really hard to pick one. I love the island to be solar, off-grid completely, safe pathways and play spaces. But the one I pulled out was the community pool project. It's been talked about for years. I think it would benefit everyone from our tamariki through to our kaumatas. It's not just about recreation. You've got health and haora, water safety, aqua fitness for the elderly, youth activities all year round, and building resilience, that all-weather facility for the community to rely on. So I think the Destination Management Plan has also identified that it's a gap for locals and visitors. And also on fairness, the Waiheke ratepayers already help fund pools across Tamaki Makaurau, but our island doesn't get one. So I think it's time we had the same investment here. So my background means I do know how to work with the big organisations and get projects moving with a practical, evidence-based approach. Pitch. I know how to workshop, build networks, and use my corporate skills to get everyone around the table and deliver projects.
Thank you. Paul, what's your capital funding priority?
The first project that crossed my mind was getting the coastal walkway open again at Church Bay, because it's been closed about 6 or 7 years now. But I'm not sure whether that would come from capital funding, because I think it's going to involve some land take or an easement. So the project I would say would be widening Austen Road between Error Road and the Rocky Bay turnoff, O'Brien Road. And I'm talking about widening on the inland side of the road so that vehicles can pass cyclists safely. At the moment, you get cyclists struggling up the hill from Error Road. Some cars will wait patiently behind, but some will try and squeeze past them and make dangerous overtaking manoeuvres because there's not very good visibility up there. And some drivers get quite upset about it. I've seen comments on the Facebook page. I've been abused myself for not being on the cycle path on the other side, but it's actually quite difficult and dangerous to cross the road to get on that cycle path and then get off again when you get to the other end. So that would be one project I think that's reasonably achievable, not too expensive, but it all ties back into what I was talking about in reviewing the 10-year transport plan and the priorities around that.
Thank you. Damien.
If I can only pick one, it would be a system for managing our short-term rental register. I know a digital platform is not everyone's idea of a capital project, and I completely agree that a community pool would be an excellent community asset, and the enhancement of the Te Arahura track would also be an excellent community project. But a digital platform, a system that gives us insight into how our housing is being used, is the type of essential infrastructure that is also key to Waiheke's future. Creating that new digital asset with Auckland Council, working with their IT teams, designing, building, shipping, maintaining, all of that is an investment, but it is an investment in making sure that we provision for the health of our community's future. So a short-term rental register, platform for such.
Thank you. Ollie, you get 2 bites this. You started off with it, but you can have another go if you like. Capital projects.
There's one thing that I had in my head. I'm not a very good singer. It's the little things that really matter. Okay, that's where we can start. I mean, I'm not trying to run Auckland. I'm trying to be part of the community and local. So I mentioned toilets, safe house, etc. I'm thinking we could have more community gardens. We can plant more trees, fruits and everything. I can see tourists, kids, everyone enjoys, the peaches, the things around, I think it's gorgeous. Let's have more of them. Palm Beach, a little thing, we spend $2,000 a month to fix in Palm Beach the little pebbles, by the car park there. Beautiful, white, magnificent. So $2,000 times 12 is roughly $25,000. And I know because I know what program does there to weed the thing. Hello, So revert to grass. Simple. All right? That's what I would call capital. Now, what else? I mean, there is so many little things we can do, and we don't need to be Don Quixote. I don't know if you've ever read it, but a lot of what I hear is chasing windmills. We're not going to have, we have zero influence with Auckland, we're the minions. So we have a certain budget. Let's be happy. We all make a choice to stay here. We love Waiheke. Let's do it. And with what we have and what we can do at a grassroots level, at a local level.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bianca.
I won't get told off for you this time, so I'll just keep it short. But I agree with like the solar grids. I think it's wonderful what Norm's talking about, which is, I'm not sure if that's exactly like capital, but with the long-term transport plan, and that coming up in the suggestions that you've made, and also the Te Waipareta Park, I think is really important for us to continue with our plans with that, and the Rangihoa Sports Park. I also think, just want to pick up on the point that Kath raised, that there is another opportunity for us to fight for more funding again, and that'll be really important for capital projects. So those will probably be my main ones, as well as making sure that we have a really good amount of funds that are available to our amazing environmental organisations, and the continuation of the climate activator and different projects like that. Kia ora.
Thank you. Zan.
I kind of have two, but the first one's going to be really quick. Just really quick, because mine is going to be about transportation, except walking across that courtyard out there is so bad. The smell of sewage is so bad. I don't know if that's something that we can fix as a local board, but it's something that really needs to be investigated, and it's been ongoing for years. But the one that I thought I was going to talk about is a connected transportation, connected cycleway on a cyclist, as I've mentioned. And there are more and more cyclists that come to the island every year. Lots of people on e-bikes, lots of people all over the roads, because there are no cycle lanes that indicate to people where they should be going. Lots of people don't cycle or drive on the left side of the road in the countries that they come from, and it's kind of confusing sometimes. But to have a connected infrastructure from Matiatia all the way to Onatangi, so people are safe, so drivers know where cyclists go, cyclists know where drivers should be, it's like one continuous project, just like most other places in the world.
Thank you. Okay, so we've reached the end of our time. And so first of all, I want to thank all of the candidates, including Grant and Paul, who can't be here, for putting up your hand for the community. You know, it's you've all kind of got up and told us that you're going to work more hours in the week that there are, and we appreciate that, because you're doing it for the community and putting yourself forward, and and taking the questions, and and no doubt taking a bit of a hard time from people as well. So we really appreciate you putting yourself forward. There are hours of content on the Waiheke Radio website, waihekeradio.org.nz. You can listen to all of these fine people who've made candidate statements and interviews. I urge you to go and listen to those. Voting papers have been sent out this week, so we wanted to do all of our coverage so that you had that in time to inform your vote. And this pretty much concludes Waiheke Radio's election coverage. We will be back the day after the election, where we'll do a local board election roundup, talking to successful and unsuccessful candidates about the outcomes that will be on the Sunday after that election. The date eludes me, so I won't make it up. So as I say, thank you to the candidates. Thank you to everyone who's turned up at Artworks this morning, or those watching and listening on air. And thank you very much to everyone in the Waiheke Radio crew. Waiheke Radio is all volunteer run. We do it on the smell of an oily rag. We do it because we love Waiheke as well. So it's been our pleasure to bring you this tonight. Thank you very much.